loops and all these things out. So any questions there? Anyone, any questions? Anyone, any questions with that so far? Okay, so just to recap, let's write a simple for loop out here. So you can do a for condition, and the syntax follows in such a way that after for, you need to put open and close parenthesis, and then open and close slow brackets out here. And in the parenthesis, you'll need to give your condition. For example, the condition kind of starts with something like this. You can say $I is equal to 0, meaning you're starting the value of I with, let's say, an initial value called 0. And you're now telling your loop that until this particular value I, until this is less than 0 or less than, let's say, 3, something like this. I'm telling, okay, fine, less than 3. Then I'm asking my loop to increment the value of I. When I say incrementing the value of I, the first time value of I is 0, second time value of I is 1, third time value of I is 2, fourth time it is 3, fifth it is 4, and so on and so forth. So this is the increment condition that I'm giving. And I can say write host, and to print out something, I can say value of I is $I. And if I just execute this out, so I'll just, let's say, highlight everything and execute out, and which will give me the value of I is 0, 1, and 2 out here as such. And I was implementing the same concept to my loops. So I had, let's say, I mean, implementing the same concept to my arrays, which will again, let's say, just look at. So we'll talk about, let's say, these arrays and etc. that I do have. So yes, any questions still here? Anyone, any questions still here that I can take? Anyone, any questions that I can take till here? All right, let's look at this. Come back into our looping concept. So this was what the for loop syntax is, and this is how you can, let's say, go ahead and write your for loops out here. But when I start introducing something like the arrays that we were working on, let's copy this out, let's put this in. So now there is an array which is telling Mahesh, Suresh, Kiran, and Ramesh. So just to reiterate on this one, if I execute this out, I would have the array, and if I say $array and say enter, I have all these names called Mahesh, Suresh, Kiran, and Ramesh, and all these things out. Now, if I want to do, or if I want to look at the first name in this particular array, I would say array open close square brackets 0. The index value of the array will always start from, let's say, a value called 0 out here. So 0, 1, 2, 3. This is the index value of this particular array. So if I just go here and kind of do a 0 and say enter, then I get the first name. If I say 1, I get the second name. I say 2, I get the third name. I say 3, I get the fourth name out here. So now I can do write host statements in such a way. Let me put this in. Yeah. I can do a write host statement in such a way that I can say write host, and I can say my name is something like $array in bracket 0. If I do this, guys, what do you think will be the output here? Anyone? What do you think is going to be the output of this one?
Mahesh, it will come.
Yeah, Mahesh, it should come. So let me go and execute this out. And it's coming something like this. It's telling Mahesh, Suresh, Kiran, Ramesh, and then a 0 out here. Now the issue with this statement, the issue with this write host is something like this. So let's go inside the write host statement. Let's correct this out a little bit. When you're doing a write host, my name is and etc. and declaring a dollar here, what PowerShell is doing is that PowerShell is treating both these values as individual variables. It's saying, okay, fine, this is variable 1, this is variable 2. So I'll just firstly go ahead, execute this out, understand what is the value. It's telling, okay, fine, this is Mahesh, Suresh, Kiran, Ramesh. It's telling 0. Okay, fine, let me put in a 0. So it's telling, okay, fine, Ramesh, Suresh, Kiran, Ramesh, and then adding that 0 to it out there as such. Reason being, we are declaring this within quotes. Now within quotes, PowerShell won't be able to, let's say, segregate two different variables out here. I have to tell PowerShell that both of them are one and the same, for which you can put a dollar open and then a close parenthesis out here. Wherein I'm now telling that, you know what, this entirely is one variable or this entirely is one parameter. Please call it as once. Do not, let's say, segregate them or do not, let's say, separate them. And if I now execute this out, it's coming as my name is Mahesh. And if I put a 1 here, it's going to come as my name is Suresh. If I put a 2 here, it's going to come as my name is Kiran, and so on and so forth. So that's the reason I am now using the concept of my for loop, and I'm now telling, let me remove this out. And now let's say for, let's say dollar I is equal to 0. I is less than 4. Reason I is less than 4 is because I have 0, 1, 2, and 3. All those 4 characters to be displayed. Now I'll say, okay, fine. I'll put a bracket here and I'll say inside this one, I will write or I will do my write host statement. I'll close my bracket. So now this is the entire for loop. The condition and also the increment values is something that I forgot to add. Let's say I plus plus. Now I'll say write host. My name is array, and in the place of, let's say, 0, 1, 2, and etc., I can put a dollar I because I know the dollar I value is going to be coming as 0, 1, 2, and etc. So I'm combining two different concepts. One being, let's say, the indexing, the other being the for loop. And now if I just go ahead and execute this out, I now have Mahesh, Suresh, Kiran, etc. Now one issue with this logic is that if I go ahead add one more, let's say, name inside this array, say telling X, some Mr. X out here, and if I now execute this out, now that X won't come into picture. And why is it not coming, guys? Can anyone tell me? If I execute this out once again, it should have
Yeah,
given me
given
my name is X also. Go ahead, please.
given the less
Less
than
than
4 we are
condition, yes.
giving, right?
Less than 4, so it's telling 0, 1, 2, 3, and this is 4. The condition is not being satisfied. So in this case, what should I do here?
Be less than 5.
It should be less than 5, right? But again, see, if the loop again increases, then I'll have to put a less than 6, 7, and all these things out. Instead of putting this as a static number, I can say this is less than dollar array dot count. So I am now counting what is the length of this particular array by using a count function in my PowerShell. So if you just execute this out, it's going to tell you that, okay, fine, the length is, let's say, 5 or something like this. So instead of putting a static value like 4 or 5 or every time you're changing it, just let your logic go. And now if you add someone like X or someone like, sorry, Y, and if I now execute this out, the Y is also coming out here as such. So I do not really have to, let's say, tell my array that, you know what, please depend upon a particular count or please depend upon a particular value. Rather, I am making sure that whatever is the length of my array or whatever is the count inside my array, I'm calling it here and I'm saying depend upon, let's say, this particular condition, and I'm good. So if I put X, Y, whatever it is, I am good with that. And even if I remove this out and still execute my, let's say, PowerShell, it's still going to work. The reason being, this is not now a static number, so you don't have to, let's say, every time think about, okay, fine, what is the condition here? Should it be less than 4? Should it be less than 5? Or should it be, let's say, greater than something or something like that? So just put this as array.count and we are good with that. Yes, any questions still here? Yes, anyone? Any
I,
questions that I can, good, please.
in that case, are we need to mention that in that square brackets? No, no, that count semi-count next to $I plus plus is there, no? So no need to
Mhm.
mention plus plus, no? Since we are mentioning $array that count, it will count automatically, no?
Right, but how do you increment it? What is your condition to increment it out here? So
No,
if you remove this out,
it will take
right?
automatically, no? Since we mentioned in that count.
Correct. So, but what will it take automatically? Will it automatically take the number, which is 5?
No, it will take all together, no? Since we mentioning that count.
When you say altogether, what do you mean, or what do you think you'll get as the output here? Dollar array dot
Uh,
count. What do you think you'll get the output here?
it's in, my name is Mahesh, Suresh, Kiran, and Ramesh as well.
Mm-hmm. Right, but my question is that if you put it here and say execute this out, do you see what is happening right now? It's
It's
only giving
repeatedly take.
Mahesh.
Yeah.
Yes, it will repeatedly take Mahesh only because you are not going beyond 0. How do you go beyond 0 here? Here, your I value is only 0. So if you
Okay. Okay.
execute this loop, you will fall into an infinite loop out here when your I value is only 0. So either you'll have to put it here or you can say it is $I plus. You'll have to give it an incremental condition. If you don't give it,
Okay.
it'll fail.
Okay. Got it. Thank you.
Yes, no worries. Any more questions here? Anyone? Any more questions here? All right. So if you have multiple loops, let's say that I want to write something like my name is Mahesh. I belong to so and so location. My name is Suresh. I belong to so and so location. I can put here something called as a location array. In this one, I can say it is Mahesh belongs to Hyderabad, Suresh belongs to Pune, and Kiran belongs to something like again Hyderabad here. Ramesh belongs to Mumbai or something like this. And in here, I can say right host, my name is, let's say, so on, so forth. I say I belong to, and using the same logic, I'll again say dollar location bracket dollar I. So here I'm incrementing over an array called array dollar I, and here I'm incrementing over another array called location dollar I out here. So if I now go ahead and execute this out, this is how I'll get the output. Telling my name is Mahesh, I belong to Hyderabad. My name is Suresh, I belong to Pune. So I can use multiple arrays, and using a simple for loop, just one condition. I'm going ahead, I'm telling array.I or array bracket I and location bracket I out here. And I'm incrementing over both of them. So I'm parallelly incrementing over Mahesh, and then I'm telling this is Hyderabad, Suresh, Hyderabad, and etc. Reason being, here array 0 will become Mahesh, dollar array 0 will become Mahesh, dollar location 0 will become Hyderabad, and here array 1 will become Suresh, location 1 will become Pune, and so on and so forth. So it's a one-to-one mapping basically that I'm trying to establish using a simple for condition out here. So you can use a simple for loop, increment over multiple arrays at the same time, and then produce, let's say, the output that you desire out here to go ahead and do this or not. Yes, any questions still here? Anyone? Any questions still here that I can take? Any questions before I move forward with this?
Difference.
I'm sorry,
What
can
is
you
the
come again,
difference
please?
in the count and length?
count and length, they're almost the same. So even if I do dollar array dot length and kind of get this. So length will just tell you one simple thing. So count is going to be always length plus one. Length here is just telling you this is one, two, three, and four. Four objects out here. But the count here, count also should give you the same thing out here. Let's see. Count and length is the same. Sorry. Count and length would be the same. So both are the same number out here. It's just the index value which the count considers, but the length just tells you how many objects are there inside your array out here. So just to correct my statement, both of them are correct. Both of them are same. So you can either take, let's say, a length or a count function out here as such.
Okay, sir. Thank
Yes, any more questions here, guys?
Sir, in the right host, why we need to place the dollar array, dollar I within the braces? Sir? I mean, what is the need of
Mm-hmm.
that dollar in the black color?
The dot in the black color.
In the,
So
yeah.
I, yeah,
So why we need to
yeah,
place in the
I,
braces?
okay, I just explained this. So let's see. So you say that if, let's say, if I don't place it in the bracket, let's remove the bracket out here. Let's see how you get the output. And let's put this inside this one, and I'll just place it in, let's say, just a simple statement, so that it's easy for me to, let's say, explain this out. So this is array, and then this is dollar I. Let's do this. Do you see the output right now? So as I was explaining earlier also, is that if you are declaring two different parameters within double quotes, then PowerShell is not going to treat them as two different variables. PowerShell is going to treat them as two different variables out here. So it's going to tell you dollar array value is, let's say, something like Mahesh, Suresh, and Kiran, and then it's doing dollar I separately and then combining both. So that's the reason when it's writing, it's saying array is Mahesh, Suresh, Kiran, Ramesh, and then in the bracket 0 and 1 bracket 1 and so on and so forth. So that's the reason I'm combining it together using an overall parenthesis where I'm telling dollar, and then I'm placing them inside this bracket to tell PowerShell that both of them are one single variable. So treat them as one single variable. And if I execute this, this is now the, let's say, output, as opposed to the output that you got in here.
So that's nothing but to it's a string of objects.
Correct. It's just a string of objects, and I'm asking PowerShell to treat it as, let's say, one object instead of two.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Yes. Any more questions here, guys? All right. So these are the concepts. So we started with something like for each loop. We said, how do you do a for each looping? Then we were doing a for loop, and then we were understanding a couple of things more in for loop, like array indexing and all these things out. Now all these concepts come under Windows PowerShell, meaning using PowerShell. I did not, let's say, really talk about Azure. I did not do all these things out here and etc. Now my intention is to do something like this. In place of array here being Mahesh, Suresh, Kiran, and Ramesh, I want something like test RG1, test RG2, test RG3, and test RG4. This needs to be my array. In place of location being Hyderabad, Pune, Hyderabad, and Mumbai, I want location to say something like East US to West US to Central US and North Europe or something like that. And in place of write host, I want to do some other command which goes ahead, talks to the Azure portal, and helps me create the resource groups in the locations that I needed out here. This is what I want to do, which means that I want to apply the concepts of Windows PowerShell on an Azure cloud. I want to apply this on the Azure cloud, and I want to use the basic knowledge of the PowerShell that I do have in order to start interacting with the objects that are in the cloud. When I say objects in the cloud, It's like you can say it's a resource group, you can say it's a storage account, you can say it's a container, you can say it's a blob. So I want to create a storage account, I want to upload a blob, I want to, let's say, create multiple storage accounts and all these things out, or multiple, let's say, resource groups and everything, and so on and so forth. Now, before I start doing that, see, your PowerShell should have a capability to start talking with the Azure cloud. Using simple Windows PowerShell, you won't be able to do it. You will have to install something called as the AZ modules. When I say AZ module, AZ here stands for Azure modules here, which enables your PowerShell that is installed on your local machine to go ahead and start talking with an Azure cloud out here. Meaning you can go ahead do creating new resource groups, you can log in, you can delete your resource groups and etc. And all these things, all the capabilities, something like this needs to be achieved using PowerShell out here. In order to do that, we will have to install something known as modules out here. Now to install module, there are a couple of prerequisites, meaning there are a couple of things that you need to check before you go ahead and install a module. The very first thing is the PowerShell version that is installed on your system. Now, for your PowerShell to support something called as the AZ modules, you need the version of PowerShell to be greater than or equal to 5.1. So the question can be, how would you check the version of PowerShell out here? I do not really know. So there's a simple command, do a dollar, say PS version table. PS here stands for PowerShell. Version table here will give you what are all the properties of, let's say, this PowerShell that is installed in your system. And if you just execute this out, this is the value you're going to get. And what you need to look at is just the PS version out here, which is telling this is 5.1.22000.832, which is greater than or equal to 5.1. After that dot something, I am not really concerned about after what is coming after the dot out there, but it just needs to be greater than or equal to something like 5.1 out here. So this is the first prerequisite. Again, if your version, again, most of, or not most, what I would say, all of the laptops that come with Windows 8.1, Windows 10, Windows 11, they come by default with something like 5.1 out here. You do not really have to do any kind of an upgrade on all these things out. But if you are using a Windows 7 systems and 7.1 systems and etc., in order to upgrade your Windows, you will have to do something called as the update. I mean, there's something called Windows updates out here. So you'll have to go into something called Windows updates on your system. So if you just click on Windows updates, you have to, let's say, do something called the OS update out here. So let's see, Windows updates. You have to go to your Windows updates, and you'll have to check for your updates out here, and you'll have to update your operating system to the latest, let's say, available software out there, and that should go ahead and, let's say, install the Windows PowerShell of a newer version called 5.1 out here. So you cannot manually install it. It is a part of your operating system. So you'll have to update it along with the operating system out here. But if you are coming with an operating system of, let's say, Windows 8.1 and greater, which is Windows 10, Windows 11, this version will by default, let's say, talk about something like 5.1 and so on and so forth. This is the first condition. The second condition is your execution policy should be unrestricted. Execution policy to be unrestricted out here. Again, how do you check that? Just say, in order to check something, in order to get something, I'll say get, I'll say hyphen execution policy. So I'm getting something called as execution policy that is there on my, let's say, PowerShell. And if I just execute this out, it is unrestricted. This is what it needs to be. It needs to be there. It's unrestricted. And in case it's not unrestricted, it's something else, change it to unrestricted. This helps you to go ahead, talk to the Azure portal freely, run any script and all these things out. So now to again change it to unrestricted, say a command called set. There's a command called set. Say set hyphen execution policy. So you're setting the execution policy and you're setting the execution policy. So just say set hyphen execution policy space, say hyphen. You'll again have a parameter called execution policy. So I'm now setting the execution policy to unrestricted. Again, if I run this, as I was explaining in an earlier class, the PowerShell will fail to run it. Reason being, I am not accessing my PowerShell in an administration mode. So in order to run this particular command called set hyphen execution policy to unrestricted, please go to your PowerShell and open this in an administrator mode. Open this, let's say in the administrator mode. How do you know that? On the top right, you'll see that this is, let's say, an administrator console out here. So this is the first, this is the second thing that you need to do. The first thing, just check for your PS version table. Second thing, just see that the execution policy is unrestricted. And if it is not unrestricted, please change it to unrestricted out here. These are the two things that you need to do before you go ahead and install something called as the module out here. So any questions still here? Anyone, any questions still here that I can take before we move to the module installation part? All right, so coming to the module installation, how do you install the modules? Install modules. Now, in order to install modules, see, my system already has all the modules out here. So even though if I run the command, it will not be a lot of beneficial. I won't be able to, let's say, show you how to install the module on my system. So what I did is that I created a virtual machine on the cloud. Just treat it to be a brand new machine out here. We'll in which ways cover what is the concept of virtual machine and etc. But as of now, I'm just using this particular machine that I'm running on the Azure cloud to go ahead and do some, let's say, explanation out here. So the very first thing that you need to do is just go into your operating system, go into your C drive. Let's open the C drive of this machine. And in the C drive, you have something called program files. Just go here, look for something called Windows PowerShell. Inside this, there is this folder called modules. And by default, you'll have these 5 items or these 5 folders out here. These are the system folders out here. So don't delete them, just be it the way it is. Just come back into your system and let's do the same check out here. I'll say $PS version table. And if I run this out, the version, it will just show the version that it is 5.1 or something like this. I'll say, okay, great, this is good. Second thing that I'll do is I'll say it is get hyphen execution policy. I'll run this out. It is unrestricted. I'm good with that. If it is not, then I'll do a set hyphen execution policy out here to unrestricted out here as such. Again, this is an administrator console. So I'm just going ahead and running this out. I'll say yes to all, yes. And now the execution policy is reset back to unrestricted out here as such. Once this is done, just go ahead. Now start installing modules. And I'm now installing a module called AZ module out here. So installing modules. I'll say install hyphen module. I'm giving a command to PowerShell that you know what, do an installation of a module hyphen the name of the module being AZ. I'm saying please go ahead, install a module called let's say AZ, and I'll just go ahead and run this command out. So now it's telling okay fine, I'll go ahead install a module called AZ in your system, and these are all the commands that you need to run. So these are all again here it's going to tell you do you want to go ahead and execute this out. I'll say yes, go ahead, execute this out. and now it'll go ahead download something called as a NuGet package. And after once it's downloaded, it will now go ahead and say, I will go ahead and install all the modules out here. So you'll just have to say yes to all and all these things. And these are the 4 or 5 lines that you need to just check on your system to see how the modules are being installed. So I'm just pasting it out here in this particular chat window. The first line is $PS version table to get the version of your PowerShell. Second is execution policy. Third is set the execution policy to unrestricted if it is not already. And you need to run this command in, let's say, the administrator mode. And finally, you'll have to run something called install -module out here. And once that's done, let me go back here. You will see this, let's say, bar that is going around. It's a progress bar wherein it is telling you, okay, fine, the AZ module is being installed. It's telling all these modules are getting installed and all that stuff. So it'll take like a minute or so to go ahead and install all the modules out here. Now, this is the step 1. I mean, this is this is, let's say, the method 1, I would say, not the step 1, which is method 1. There is also a method 2 where if you don't want to run this command called install-module, or for some reason this is not working, or method 2, I'll say, is a direct installation. So let me come back to my browser again. See, it shows that this is completed. And even after it is telling it is completed, it will take some time for the module to be installed and some time for the module to be configured. So just give it some time. And in the meanwhile, if the method 1 to run the command is not getting installed, just go to Google and say install AZ module PowerShell. Think find AZ module. Yes, this is what. And if you go here, you have the Microsoft Field documentation which talks about how do you install it. Again, the requirements here: PowerShell version table, execution policy setting, and then going ahead, and they are going ahead and doing, let's say, a lengthy command out here, but this is good until the name AZ is good here. And here you have installation on Windows PowerShell and etc. Just scroll down. You have other installation methods wherein it is telling you, okay, fine, download the PowerShell MSI. So just go here and it's going to tell you that, the same requirements again. I'll just scroll down. It is telling you, okay, fine, the package is available from something called GitHub. Go to this particular link and go and search for the latest asset. So I'll say, okay, fine, I'll just go here into this particular link and let's see. Okay, not this. Let's scroll down all the way to the bottom in this particular link, and there's something called assets, and there's something called 8 assets out here. Just click on this, and you have something called as an MSI installer file. These are called MSI installers. It's an installer file out here that you get. So if you want to install in the method 2, back inside the system, I'll just go ahead. Syncing data, that's good enough. Confirm start browsing, fine. So I'll just put this in, and again the same page. Just scroll down all the way to the bottom, and here you have something called assets out here. And depending upon your OS architecture, in my case, I am running this particular module on a 64-bit operating system. You might have a 32-bit operating system. If you are having a 32-bit operating system, please click on x86, and in my case it's a 64, so I'll click on x64 out here, and this will go ahead and download an installer. Say open the file, and once you open the file, it's saying preparing to install and all these things. I'll say accept the terms and conditions and say install. So if you do not want to come with, let's say, or if you do not want to, let's say, run that particular command called install-module, you can alternatively do this, just in case if that's not working for some reason, etc. But try going with the method 1. Firstly, try going with the method 1 out here. This is one of the most preferable methods. If it's not, come with the method 2, and here it's saying completed and all that stuff. Just say finish, and you can close the window. After installation, you'll have to close and reopen PowerShell. In some cases, you might also require a system restart. In very rare cases where the modules are not being installed, you also might, let's say, go ahead and restart your systems out here. In my case, let's go back, and inside this folder, if you see, there were initially 5 files, Now now you have all these folders out here called AZ accounts, AZ advisor, and all these things. This is what you need to see right now. So go to your PC, just say go to Windows. So you just go to, let's say, the C drive, just go to program files. In here, go to PowerShell. In here, go to modules. And all these are now, let's say, the folders out here that you do have. This is another confirmation that PowerShell modules are actually installed on your system out here. Yes, any questions till here? Anyone, any questions that I can take till here? Okay. Now that the modules are installed, what do we need to do? So let's go back into Windows PowerShell. So just close and reopen this back again. And the very first thing that I'll do is that I now want to start using those modules to talk to Azure, to tell Azure Cloud that, you know what, I am working on you and I want to create something like a resource group. I want to, let's say, delete a resource group, get resource groups, and all that stuff. Before doing everything, I will have to connect or log in to the Azure portal. And I'll have to connect and log in to the Azure portal using my PowerShell. This is what I need to do. So in order to do that, I will type in a command called login, or you can alternatively type a command called connect. Anything works, both are the same. So I'll say login, and I want to log into the Azure portal. So I'll say login hyphen, and as and when you do a hyphen, it will load these suggestions telling that, okay, fine, do you want to log in into Azure account? So it says login hyphen AZ Azure account out here, and I'll just run this. So as and when I run this out right now it's going to go ahead and give me a page telling sign into your account. So I'll say give my ID, and I'll say next, and I'll also give my password here that I have configured for my account. Okay, let me retype this. Okay, and once done, it will try to log in. Now the very first thing, it will give you all these orange color errors and all that stuff. Now the very first time you log into your Azure account, it requires something called as a multi-factor authentication. So it goes ahead and it, kind of gives you all these, let's say, errors out here. And if you look at the warning, it is telling unable to acquire a token for the tenant with the error. You must use multi-factor authentication to access your tenant. Please rerun a command called connect hyphen. So if you look at this, it's telling please rerun a command called connect hyphen AZ account with an additional parameter called hyphen tenant ID, and give your tenant ID out here. So I'll do the same thing. So if this doesn't work, now 99% of the times this command probably will not work out here. Go ahead, type a command called connect hyphen AZ account. I'll say hyphen tenant ID, and whatever is your tenant ID, put it here. In my case, if I go into my Azure portal, if I click on this, I am going to get my tenant ID out here, which is 270 something like this. So I'll just copy that out, go back into my PowerShell and place it out here. You can remove this. So connect hyphen easy account hyphen tenant ID and the ID that is there in my tenant. I'll just run this again. And this is going to again ask me the account. I'll say sign in. And here it's going to ask me, okay, fine, please authenticate yourself. You are protected with something called as a multi-factor authentication. So please go ahead, send across your account an email so that I can authenticate. So I'll say email this particular account, and in a second, you should be receiving an email with a code out here. You would get an email along with a Microsoft code. So just copy this out and paste it here in the window and say verify. And as and when you do that, This is the output that you need to see. This is what tells you that you have properly logged in, wherein it's telling you what is your account, what is the subscription name, what is the tenant ID out here. This is to log in, and if you want to log out, just say logout hyphen easy account or disconnect hyphen easy account. So I'll say logout hyphen az account hyphen the username of the account is classes Azure DevOps at the rate gmail.com. Pass it in quotes. Say classes Azure DevOps at the rate gmail.com. And once if I go ahead and let's say run this out, it'll simply log me out. And again, if you want to sign in back again, same thing. Connect hyphen easy account and hyphen tenant ID or login hyphen easy account will work. So for the very first time, when you try to log in, it will throw you some errors. In order to resolve those errors, you'll have to run these commands. You'll have to look at the warning out here firstly. The warning will itself have the answer telling what you need to do, let's say, to get rid of this error. And once you run, you might get an email to your, let's say, registered account with the code. Take the code, paste it here, and that should, let's say, set you up to go ahead and let's say start working with PowerShell using, or let's say start working with Azure using PowerShell out here. Yes, any questions still here that I can take? So we are discussing about what are the different ways to go ahead and install your module. And once you install your module, how do you log into the Azure portal? And this is what we discussed. In the commands here are login hyphen easy account or connect hyphen easy account. And once you run that out, you should be able to go ahead and let's say log into the Azure portal out there as such. Yes, any questions still here that I can take? Anyone, any questions? Any questions, guys, before I move forward?
Can we connect through Azure portal? Now we
When you
are
say
using
can,
PowerShell. Now we are using
okay.
PowerShell to connect this portal and Azure now. So can we connect directly from Azure portal to that installed portal modules?
Okay, just this. Okay, can you connect Azure portal to directly that module? No, you'll have to run this command on your PowerShell. You will have to
Okay.
run this one. So there, I don't think there is a way to connect directly like that.
Okay.
So you'll have to do that. Connect hyphen easy account out here.
Got it. Thank you.
No worries. Yes. Any more questions here, guys?
So can you show me the output for the Azure account closed? It is showing some brasses closed.
Yes. So if you want me to show the output for Azure account closed, let's see. You mean the logout?
Logout.
Yes. So it just tells you what is the ID and what is the type of, let's say, user you are. And here it's just telling you the tenants and all these things. It means that it's just not storing the tenant ID out here when you log it out. That's it. So this is the output that you get when you log out.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Any more questions here? All right. So I've logged in again. I'm coming back to my local machine right now. I just wanted to use this virtual machine to show you all how to log in, show you all how to install and etc. So I'll come back into my virtual machine. Sorry, I'll come back into my local machine out here. This is my local laptop. 7:45 time. Let's see. Now I'll just firstly clear my screen. Okay, this is good. Let's go back into the Azure portal. If I go into the resource groups, now in the morning, because of some other demo, I had to create a couple of resource groups out here. So I am able to see all these resource groups that is there on my Azure portal. I want to see the same thing using my PowerShell script. I don't want to come log into the portal, don't want to do all these things. And in order to get all the resource groups on your portal, I will run a command called get. Again, when we did an execution policy, we were telling get hyphen execution policy out here. In order to get the resource groups, I'll say get hyphen and I want to get resource groups that are registered on the Azure portal, I'll say AZ resource group. So I'm telling get hyphen AZ, get hyphen Azure resource groups. And if you run this command, what this is going to do is that this is going to go to the Azure portal, query the Azure portal, telling, okay, fine, what are the resource groups that you do have? And then it's going to send me back all the data out here in this particular format. That's going to tell that, okay, fine, this is an object, the entire object out here with properties like, so this is object one. So it's returning the response in the form of objects, saying this is object one, resource group name EastUS2 hyphen RG, location EastUS2, provisioning state succeeded, resource ID, what is the resource ID out here? Then you have something like network watcher RG. Then you have, this is the second object out here, by the way, with properties like resource group name, location, and all these things out. And finally, if I just scroll down, I have something like resource groups, that is North Europe, location is North Europe, provision state succeed, what is the resource ID. So it's giving me all these things. So whatever is there on my portal, if I go back into my portal, what these are the three resource groups that I do have, along with the properties, it's going ahead and displaying out here. This is to get a particular resource group or to get all the resource groups that is there on the Azure portal. And in return, it's returning me all these objects telling me that what is the resource group name and all these things out. Now, if I want to create my own resource groups, let's say I'll say CLS clear screen. If I want to create my own resource group, this is to get, and if I want to create, the command here becomes new hyphen. So I'm telling new, I want to say new hyphen AZ resource group. I want to say, okay, fine, please create a resource group for me. And I'm now telling hyphen the name of the resource group in brackets. I'll say test01. I'll say hyphen the location of the resource group. I'll say this is East US 2 in brackets. The reason I'm passing this in brackets is because I want PowerShell to ignore these spaces and all these things out. And if I now go ahead and just execute this single line, what this is going to do is that this is now going to go ahead into the Azure portal, talk to the Azure portal and say, okay, fine, you know what, I want a resource group with this particular name called test01 that is running in a location called ECS2. Can you please go ahead and create the same thing for me? And if you come back to your Azure portal, just do a refresh. It'll take some time because of your browser cache and everything to get reflected. Sometimes you'll have to, refresh it out a couple of times. Usually it'll take about a minute or so to get reflected onto the portal. And once that's done, let's look at this. So now if you see, there is a fourth resource group that is getting reflected, which is called test01, that is created from my PowerShell. So this is from my PowerShell out here that I just created right now with a command called new hyphen az resource group. And I passed in a couple of parameters like hyphen name, hyphen location. Same thing, what I was able to do it on the portal. So if I click on this one, say create, it's just going to ask me what is the name and what is the location. The same thing I'm now passing as a parameter from my PowerShell script. And I'm saying, okay, fine, the name is, let's say test01, the location is something like ECS2. And I went ahead and I created a resource group. Again, if I want to remove this, if I want to delete this on the portal, you'll have to just come here, click on delete, enter the name of the resource group and hit the delete button. But on the PowerShell, to delete something, I'll say remove. It's always a remove hyphen. I want to remove a resource group that is running on the Azure portal. So I'll say resource group hyphen the name of the resource group. I'll say this is test 01, and I can just go ahead, execute this particular command. Now it's telling you, are you sure you want to remove this? I'll say yes. Okay, it's now telling test-01 is not there. Reason being, let's see. The reason being I created a test 01, not a test -01. So I'll remove this out and again try to remove this. I'll say yes. Now it's going to go to the portal. It's trying to remove the resource group, and the removal process always takes some time. Creation is a pretty straightforward procedure, but removal of a particular resource group will take about 1 or 2 minutes of time. And once that's done, it will return a value called true, telling it, okay, fine, the command is properly executed. And I've also removed this out. And after removal, just go to the Azure portal and refresh this out. You should not be able to see that particular test 01 resource group as such. So this is how you use your modules, or this is how you use that particular command to go ahead and start creating, let's say, a resource group, or start deleting a resource group, or getting some resource groups on the Azure portal. You can run get hyphen easy resource group, new hyphen something to create it, remove hyphen easy resource groups to remove this out as such out there. Yes, any questions that I can take till here? Anyone, any questions that I can take till here? Anything that I can address till here?
Sir, in
Mhm.
location we have a drop down in portal, right? So same
Correct.
thing the format we should follow here or
Yeah,
for
I would
location.
say same thing, but even if you pass it as East US2 without any space, it will still work. But in here, you would not, let's say, directly get the drop down. You'll have to give your location out here as such. But yes, even without a space, you can pass it out as out here as such out there.
Okay, sir, thank you.
Yes, any more questions here, guys? Okay, so this is a creation of a simple resource group, deletion of a simple resource group out here. What I want you all to try doing is this. See, we are using a for loop out here, right? When they have one array telling Mahesh, Suresh, and Kiran, all that stuff, then you have a location. Can you, instead of doing Mahesh, Suresh, Kiran, say test 1, test 2, test 3, and test 4, instead of saying Hyderabad, Pune, or something, can you just say East US 2, Central US, North Europe, and something like that? And go ahead and instead of doing a right host statement, can you do a new hyphen AZ resource group statement and try creating all the 4 resource groups out here? I mean, I will any which ways go ahead and explain how to do that. But before I do that, I want you all to try it out so that we'll see what are the errors that you get and all these things out there. Yes, any questions, guys? Any questions before I close for the day?
So similar to creation of a resource group, can we even create a subscription through PowerShell?
Yes, you can also create a subscription. Again, whatever you are able to do manually on the Azure portal, everything can be
So
done
we can do
using, let's say, PowerShell.
through PowerShell script. You can do everything.
Yes, through PowerShell, you can do everything and anything that is possible on the portal.
So you mean that PowerShell is all about like visual tool, making the things easy.
I would say it's an automation tool. It yes makes
That's
things easier, and it helps you with less human intervention. You don't have to, let's say, intervene with your scripts again and again. It'll just help you, let's say, whatever you're doing, let's say, manually, it will help you automate the same thing out there.
so. Then, what is the role of PowerShell then? If we can do everything through Azure portal,
Hmm.
so is there still PowerShell required in certain areas to compensate the
Definitely.
Azure portal?
uh, Definitely. Again, when I say Ravi, go ahead and give me about 100 research groups in like about 5 minutes of time, I won't be certainly be able to achieve the same thing from the Azure portal, but I'll be able to achieve it from my PowerShell script. So whatever you're doing
Okay.
manually, it will firstly reduce the time. Yes, go ahead, please.
So the things are too big, PowerShell will help out to make the things simple.
Definitely. Correct. That's the idea of
Okay.
automation. Yes.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Actually, we will add
Hmm.
some tags now while doing
Correct.
manually.
Hmm.
Those also can we add here?
Definitely. Those is also something that you can add here. But before you add that, I just need to discuss about something called as a hash table. So I'll
Okay.
talk about what a hash table is, and then I'll also show you how to add a tag.
Okay, noted. Also, there are some conditions now while creating storage account and all need to have lower cases only and need to have
Correct.
unique names and all. So
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
while doing PowerShell, it will give warnings if we are not meet parameters and all.
Yes, it'll give you an error out here if you do not meet the right condition. It'll just throw an error and it won't create anything. It'll give you the error telling that this is what you're missing out and etc. There's also a way to avoid it. We'll also see that while creating
Okay,
a storage account.
okay, thank you.
Yes. Any more questions, guys?
Sir, can we do subscription here? I mean, can we create a subscription from here? Or,
Yes, you can create a subscription here, but the thing here is that if I want to create a subscription, again, I need all my card details and all that stuff. So it's a new hyphen
yes.
AZ subscription to go ahead and create one. But I need to put my all card details and etc. and write an end-to-end automation to do that. But yes, it is possible to do it.
Okay, thank you.
Sir, we have done the login there, right? Azure login.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But in the script, you are clear that script and login directly.
Here you mean?
Uh,
Like, sorry, here you mean?
Please open. Here, not the last script. Yeah.
Okay.
First line we have done not done the login details, right?
Login. Reason being, see, the point here is that once you log in, the login will be persisted for at least a week or something like that. So I do a lot of PowerShell in my local machine. So that's the reason without even logging in, I went ahead and let's say started creating things out. So login is only one time. Even if you close your system, restart it and come back again, you can use the same login and kind of let's say interact with the same let's say Azure portal out there. So you don't have
Okay.
to let's say do a login again and again. Just do one login and that should be good. Yes, any more questions, guys?
So that this is a download. Once we download it, that means it will appear in desktop or in
You
PC.
mean the module?
Yes.
So for you to see the modules, you'll have to go to your C drive of your system and go to program files. Inside that, you have something called PowerShell, Windows PowerShell. So just come back to Windows PowerShell. In here, in this particular folder called Windows PowerShell, you'll have modules. Inside this, you'll be able to see all these things out here called AZ dot something, AZ dot something like this. I'll just give you the path also. It will usually be the same for every system. So it is C program files, Windows PowerShell, and then modules out here. Yes. Any more questions here, guys? Okay. So just think about this particular assignment on how do you use a for loop in order to go ahead and create 4 different resource groups on 4 different locations out here. And in tomorrow's session, we'll address those questions and do a much more deep dive into, let's say, PowerShell to understand for each using, let's say, Azure PowerShell and all these things. Until then, have a good day ahead, guys. Thank you.